Hey, welcome back to the JKMoto Entertainment channel. Welcome back once again to Stable B, our favorite place. If you're new to the channel, this is a track day, specifically motorcycle track day related, as you can see with the motorcycle behind me. Motorcycle track day related channel. Today we're going to talk about a track bike versus a street bike. So, big picture, I want to come out very clear today. It's going to be a lot of opinion-based stuff, just kind of my opinion. I'm going to give you what I think the best option is, but I'm also going to give you some pros and cons in either direction. So, if you have any comments or you've got an opinion that's different than mine or the same as mine, please throw that down in the comments. If you're going to throw an opinion down, it helps a lot if you have something to back it up. But even if it's just an opinion, go for it. I want to hear about it. Love getting all the comments on all the different feedback and opinions. That's what the internet's for. That's what we're building on this channel. So if you're new to the channel, you can go down and check out the comments on just about any video. And sometimes there's a lot of good stuff in there, a lot of opinions that differ from mine. I'm perfectly okay with that. Anyway, we're going to talk about the benefits of a street bike versus the benefits of a track bike, specifically for motorcycle track days. So stick around in the video. We'll get into it. Check it out. Alright, so I just said we're going to talk about track bikes versus street bikes. Now, I also want to let you know in the beginning, if you haven't done a track day yet, I would say 100% stick around for this video, listen to my opinions and the different things that I put out, but I want to go making a decision right after this video before you go do a track day, because you could end up finding yourself not a huge fan of track days for whatever reason. You don't want to waste money on a bike that you don't need, maybe. I don't know. If you like having a collection of bikes in your garage, it does look pretty cool. You could start a YouTube channel and just sit here and talk and not actually ever ride. I'm just kidding. We do a little bit of riding. I also forgot to mention, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel down below and throw a like on the video. But anyway, track bike. What is a track bike? First, we got to define that. So realistically, a lot of people would say a track bike needs track fairings. A track bike needs no lights on it, blah, blah, blah. Like, actually, I can't think of like specifics. These sport bikes are already so close to being like race ready that there's not that much stuff. Some people might say lock wire, right? Having a safety wire on your different nuts and bolts all over the bike. Some people might say you need to have a brake lever guard. You can't see it on this, but it's on the other side. Yeah, a whole multitude of different things. In my opinion, and there's no real like good definition for it, so we'll just stick with my opinion. In my opinion, a track bike is just any bike that is dedicated to track use only. i.e., I don't ride this on the street anymore. This is my track bike. I go do motorcycle track days. I know that I like motorcycle track days. I have a bike specifically for that. So even if you just have a standard street motorcycle and all you've done is taken the license plate off and taped it up and never really put your license plate back on, that is what I would consider a track bike. Now we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of having a dedicated track bike. Please understand, once you get into track days and you get addicted and that's like all you do, you might find yourself in a situation where you're like, well, I don't even ride on the street anymore because I think it's dumb. I'm not here to preach any of that today. We're not going to have that conversation today. But that does happen to some people, a lot of people, and generally that also happens around the time that those people start racing. So if you want to start racing, building a race bike, building a track bike are two completely different things. I also have a video that I put out a long time ago, the kind of beginning of this channel, about the cost of building a track bike. So taking a street-worthy motorcycle that you have and converting it into a track bike. So I will link that up here. When you're watching that video, understand that a lot of that money was spent on things that aren't necessarily needed, but that was just a total breakdown of cost, and it can cost quite a bit to convert your bike over. So we're not going to get into that today. We might save that for another video, just kind of redoing the pros and cons of buying vice building. What we're going to talk about today is specifically having one vice not. So we'll start off with some pros, and usually what I would like personally kind of define a track bike as, but even so. So one of the big things that I like in my head when I was first building my first track bike and first decided like, hey, this bike's gonna be track dedicated. What happened before that was that I had a street bike. It was my Gixxer 750. I'll show you guys here in a minute. And that Gixxer 750, I rode to work. I rode around on the weekends, and I went and did a track day on it. And I taped up the lights, did all the standard prep your bike for track day stuff. I got done with that, came back, and I was like, yep, I don't know if I'll do that again. It was fun, but I don't know. And so I took all the tape off and went about my day. The next year, I decided, hey, I should go do that again. That was kind of fun. And I put the tape on the bike. When I got home, I didn't take the tape off because I was planning on already scheduling another track day. And then I went about 6 months without ever taking the tape off the headlights on that bike and just doing track days. And that's when I realized, you know, this thing needed new fairings anyway, because the fairings were kind of falling apart, falling off in different places. Wasn't a huge fan of them. It had green wheels, which it flash forward now because it's kind of a conglomerate of just a mess. It's got a green wheel again, but that's a different story. And so I said, hey, let's just build a track bike out of it. And I kind of looked at it and I said, you know, the benefit of this is that I don't have to worry about it. If I know I can't ride it on the street, I'm not going to be as mad when I crash it on the track. So that would be like my first and biggest benefit, the biggest pro to having a dedicated track bike, is that if you have a bike that you commute with or that you use on the weekends to go cruising or canyon carving or whatever, if you take that bike to the track, there lives a possibility where you crash and total that bike. And then you can't take it to work on Monday morning, or you can't go canyon carving next weekend. You have to wait till another track day until you get those repairs done. Now, repairing a bike is not always hard. It doesn't always cost a ton of money. Oftentimes, we just do a nice little low side. We break a clip on and maybe crack a fairing or two. So it's not always a big deal, but just kind of having that peace of mind of knowing like, hey, this bike ain't ever gonna see the road again. It's only gonna see the track. So if I put it down on the track, it's okay. It's good. It's just a track bike, that's what it's for. And so that's kind of my biggest pro, is that you don't have to worry about that bike staying up. Now, the negative that goes along with that is now you don't have a bike for the street unless you can afford 2 bikes. So if you're a huge advocate of riding on the street, and I can't tell you that you shouldn't be, because if it weren't for people buying street bikes to ride on the street, we wouldn't have this sport at all anymore. Manufacturers don't make money by selling race bikes. They make money by selling street bikes. So please keep riding on the street, honestly, and tell your friends, get your friends into motorcycle riding. But if you convert your bike over, or you sell your bike to buy a track bike, you don't have a bike for the street anymore. And so if you find yourself out of money for track days, or just unable to get there, or whatever else might come up in your life, now you're kind of just out. You just have a motorcycle sitting in your garage collecting dust that has track fairings on it and kind of looks ugly because it's a track bike. So that is the negative to the first pro that I mentioned. All right, we're gonna get on to the next positive, and we'll kind of keep this rolling positives and negatives just to kind of combat a little bit. The next positive, honestly, is gonna be the price of said track bike. Generally, if you're getting on Facebook Marketplace looking for a motorcycle and you look for a brand new, or not, sorry, brand new is the wrong word on Facebook Marketplace, but you're looking for a used bike, if you're looking for a track-specific motorcycle, people don't want them as much. And so oftentimes they go for a lot cheaper. Now, there are certain brands and makes and models out there that definitely go for a lot more. Yamaha R6 right now is, I think you still probably spend less on a track ready one. And also please understand though, when you start to get into race bikes, what we're not talking about today is race bikes. Bikes that have a ton of upgrades on them and are safety wired and are ready to go and have a set of numbers on the front and like new suspension, internals, 5 sets of sprockets and 10 sets of wheels and 100 spare tires or something. We're not talking about race bikes today. There are videos about that on the channel. We will talk about race bikes more in the future, but today we are just talking about a track bike, which really, like I said, isn't clearly defined, because there's no, most track day orgs, you just have to tape up your lights in your mirrors and maybe remove your license plate. And so there's no like real way to define what a track bike is, besides it's just dedicated for the track. And it's kind of a personal decision. Anyway, but generally if you're getting on Facebook, you're looking for a bike to take to the track, you might find that you save some money if you buy something that is already track ready. Now, also understand that you are buying something that has been quite possibly flogged to death out on the track. There is a little bit more harder riding that happens out on a racetrack than on the normal road. I know a lot of you guys that are out there carving up the canyons and running around town, out on the freeway doing things, think that you're probably getting after it, but they did a study one time on different motorcycles, and a sport bike makes its peak power at its peak RPM pretty much, and it makes that at full throttle at that RPM. So if you think about how often you actually spend your time really up in that rev range with the thing ripped, it's not as often as you would think out on the road. On the track, you find yourself doing that a lot more, especially for the like mileage that the bike will show. So kind of understand that you're getting into a little bit of that, a little bit, maybe, I won't say premature, but more premature engine wear than something you might find on the street. And it might not be put together as beautifully as whatever else. But once again, you're gonna save some money doing that, and you don't need a title on the bike if you're never gonna register it on the road. I don't want to get into the legalities of what requires a title and what doesn't, but a lot of those track bikes get sold without a title, so just be aware of that. So that's kind of the other pro of that, is the cost of it is definitely a lot lower. The negative of that is that the cost is a lot lower, and so you're getting possibly a lot lower value motorcycle out of it. Like we just kind of already talked about, you're not going to get a title half the time. You're going to have some busted up fairings with I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me scoot out of the way a little bit. Anyway, Busted up fairings, he's got cracks all over him. There's dents on this gas tank. It's actually got a lot of dust on it right now too, sorry. You know, I bought these fairings for about $500 or $600. There's a crack up here also, you can kind of see that. And I got them Mako painted for another $400, and I thought it was so sweet looking at the time. Then I put it down, and now they're covered in duct tape and scratches and cracks all over, and I don't really care that much because when you're out there on the track, you're kind of out there to ride, and people care a lot more about how well you ride and how good you look riding than they do about how good your bike looks. But anyway, getting back to that negative, right? If you buy a street bike or you have your street bike, you know that that's going to be well taken care of because you have to meet those street standards, and generally people don't want to park their bike and have it just looking nasty, so they kind of take care of them, they keep them clean and whatnot. So then that's kind of more, that pro and that con is kind of more on the buying side. If you already have a bike and you're just trying to decide, should I make this track only, should I just stop riding on the road or whatever, I don't know that one really applies to you, but that is something we got to talk about. Third thing, we're on number 3. The third thing we're going to talk about today is kind of just mixed into a major pro and con all together in one, and you can look at it whichever way you want to do, but I'm going to talk about maintenance costs, upkeep costs, and I'm going to say that a track bike has lower upkeep costs, lower than a street bike. Now, please, if you differ from this, throw it down in the comments, and I want to hear your reasons, because I can see both sides and I want to hear them. I want to see what's in there. So throw that down in the comments while you're down there. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. But I'm going to say lower maintenance. Here's my reasoning why. If you are out of the track every weekend, and maybe even during the week, let's say you have a private membership track right next to you and you go out there and you're just always out there, then it is not going to be cheaper. 100% not. You're going to spend so much more money. But if you're only doing the track 2 to 3 times, maybe 4, even up to 6 or 10 maybe times a year, and you're not a wicked crazy fast rider and you're not racing yet, I think you will save money on maintenance having a track bike, right? So, and the reason for that is, one, if you tape up your lights, you put race fairings on, whatever, it's only going to cost you that once. 2, if you do put the bike down with race fairings on specifically, you can just kind of duct tape them up and it's okay, you don't care about it. Once again, that bike just sits in your garage most of the time, then you take it out to the track and it's okay, it's a track bike, it's able to look like that. But 3, you're not, and this is where I want to hear you guys' arguments the other way. As far as like oil changes, I don't know that you'll really do them as often. You might not burn through tires as often. Now, a lot of people are going to argue me on that because they're going to be like, dude, I'll burn through a rear tire every track day. You start racing, you'll burn through 6 in one day and then 7 on race day. And then I understand that 100%. Like I said, I kind of put a caveat of like an easygoing track guy. Maybe you're still running down in C group, or maybe you just really enjoy riding and all you do is get after it on the straight, which is perfectly okay in my opinion. You can 100% do that. But that would be kind of my caveat there. Now, the caveat to that is that you might not. You might end up spending more if you find yourself doing a lot of track days. I don't think it'll be more than if you kept it a street bike also, because if you're gonna like be taping up your lights every other weekend and then doing an oil change every 3 weekends or whatever and putting new tires on 4 times throughout the summer, that cost is going to add up if you're still riding the bike on the road also. So I would say that maintenance cost for having a track only bike on that bike specifically will be lower. It would also keep your street bike a little lower maintenance cost also, right? If you have some nice like kind of, let's call them all season or highway touring tires, sport touring is a better word, sport touring tires. If you go rip those up on the track, they're going to melt away and you're going to lose them a lot quicker than if you're just out sport touring on the road and using your tires there. So you could definitely see a kind of cost benefit of having a track dedicated bike and a street dedicated bike there. Okay, my final reason for why you should have a track bike vice a street bike. We should stop saying vice, and I should stop saying one versus the other. Why you should have a dedicated track bike, why I do think you need one, is that eventually if you do this sport, you get into it and you start doing motorcycle track days, you will eventually get addicted to it. And you will hit a point where you think you want to race. And it's very hard to just put tape on your street bike and go race it. It's a lot easier if you already have some race fairings, you have a bike that's already dedicated and it's already ready to go. You just need to put some safety wire on it, get some numbers on it, and you're ready to go. So that would be my final reason. Now that being said, if you don't get a dedicated track bike, it's a lot easier to keep yourself from going there. And the moment that you, like if you take your street bike and you dedicate it to track only and you don't buy another street bike, you will find yourself in the off season missing the road. And that's what happened to me. That's actually why I bought this one. I had my Gixxer 750 and I dedicated that to the track and went and rode all summer and it was freaking awesome. And then December came around, I was like, you know, I kind of miss riding and it'd be awesome to get back out to the track and ride again. And then January came around, I'm like, man, it's cold and there's snow on the ground. I really want to ride. And then February came around and the snow kind of melted. It was still a little cold and I was like, yeah, it'd be awesome to ride. And then March came around and started to warm up and I started seeing bikes out on the street and I was like, oh man, that looks cool. When's my track day? I still get like a month out before I get my first track day, okay. And then I'd be driving to work and some dude on a Ducati V4S passes by and I see him just riding off into the distance. I'm like, gosh dang it, man, I gotta do that. So I bought another one and then flash forward 2 years later, I started taking that to the track. And well, if you look at it now, it's in race fairings and it's dedicated to the track, very specifically dedicated for racing, which we'll talk about more later on the channel. So stick around on the channel throughout the year, subscribe to the channel. That is the easiest way to do it. But I would say that that is my final reason why you should get one and maybe you shouldn't actually get one, is that you will get addicted to this sport. You will find yourself 100% just wanting to go to the track all the time. And then you'll also maybe find yourself still wanting a street bike and end up buying more motorcycles than you need. Just a possibility. Once again, this is just my opinion and my personal experiences. So if you have any opinions, personal experiences, or anything to share, please throw that down in the comments for the audience to go look at and check out. Want to sit here and fight with anyone? If you want to fight, then go ahead and I guess we can fight about it in the comments, but I'm not really going to fight you that much. But give me your reasons why or why not you think people should or should not have a dedicated track bike. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you guys in the next one.